That was very loud. Thank you, Marissa, for starting that recording. And just for those who are joining us after the fact, welcome. Today, we're going to be covering the Child Care Development Fund State Plan draft for fiscal years 2025 to 2027. This is really an information session meant to cover the high-level aspects of the plan. And really what our hope is and our intent with these information sessions is that you would be able to leave this session a little bit more informed about where in the state plan your areas of interest might live. It is a pretty large document. It's 390 pages right now. And you can find that on our website, and we'll go through also how you can find that, as well as what the website looks like and how to submit public comment. But knowing that it is such a large document, we really wanted to hold a space where we could go over some of that high-level content. So you would have something of a roadmap going forward. So that way you can know if you're interested in providing public comment about a certain area of the plan, kind of where to start. So that is sort of the intent behind today's information session. We will be holding 2 additional information sessions as well as a public hearing. And we'll have those dates later in the presentation as well. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. I will start us off just with a quick introduction. My name is Jordan Pargetter, and I am the Child Care Development Fund, or CCDF, as we'll probably call it from here on out, administrator here in Oregon for the Department of Early Learning and Care. And my pronouns are she, her. And we also have Elizabeth here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Lavra, she, her pronouns, and I am the CCDF policy analyst here at DELC. And I am actually going to walk you guys through our slideshow today and go over all the different areas of our state plan. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
While Elizabeth is getting that going, just a small bit of housekeeping. We do have a small group, but if you could just remain on mute, that would be helpful. And then we'll take questions at the end if there are any. We may not be able to address them all in this space, but we'll certainly take note of anything that we're not able to answer on today's call. And back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. All right, so as Jordan mentioned, we are going to go over the draft of our fiscal year 2025 through 2027 Child Care Development Fund State Plan. And from now on out, we will say CCDF because that's a mouthful over and over again. So the CCDF is a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration for Children and Family, Office of Child Care, and they administer these grants to states, territories, and tribal grantees. All of the grantees are referred to as lead agencies, and in Oregon, DELC is the lead agency for this grant. And it supports Oregon's efforts to provide our child care services for low-income families, but also to enhance the quality of child care for all children, regardless of whether or not they actually receive a child care subsidy. And some of the different things that the CCDF federal grant funds in Oregon is our employment-related daycare program, which is the biggest thing that it funds. But we also fund the Baby Promise program, other contracted slots like our Head Start and Teen Parent contracted slots. We fund licensing, quality activities, and more. There's a lot of different little things that have at least partial funding from our CCDF dollars. Every 3 years, the lead agencies are required to submit their new state plans, which is what we are in the process of doing right now. These state plans act as applications for federal funds. So really every 3 years, we're telling the federal government, here's what Oregon is doing, here's all of our policies and how we come into compliance with your requirements so that we can receive the next 3 years worth of CCDF funding. Our current plan goes through the end of September, so it expires on September 30th of this year. And we need to submit our new state plan for submission to the federal partners by June 30th of 2024. So this is the draft plan of what we will submit once we've incorporated all the feedback to our federal partners by the end of June. And then this new plan will go into effect as of October 1st of this year. Our state plan is currently available for public comment on our website, and later we'll go into exactly how you guys can get there, how you can access that if you haven't already seen it, and how to submit public comment to us.
And I did go ahead and post the link in the chat too, just so you don't have to scramble writing that down. You can just click it from the chat.
So we're just going to go over briefly the 10 sections of the new state plan and generally what information is covered in each one. That way, as Jordan said earlier, if you have an area of special interest or you know of friends or coworkers who really have a certain part of the state plan that they're interested in, they can know where to go and find that information without scrolling through the full 390 pages. So just a brief look. New to the state plan this year, there used to only be 8 sections of our state plan, but when the federal government released the draft for this year, it is now 10 sections long. And really, they just teased out some of the sections. So there's not a ton of new information that they added to it, but more that they separated them and made certain areas more clear. So these are the 10 sections, and we will go through each of these one by one, and then we'll also talk about the appendix, which is something that we will submit after our state plan has been reviewed by the feds. So the first section of the CCDF state plan is CCDF administration. And this one's pretty simple, probably not the most exciting part for public comment or feedback, but it's where we identify the entities and individuals who have the authority to administer and implement activities related to the CCDF program. And we also identify the partners that we consulted to develop the plan, and we include information about all the public hearing information and like these information sessions that you're in right now. So this really just goes over designating that DELC is the lead agency and who within the agency has signing authority and some information like that. Section 2 is one of the big and often really interesting to the public sections of the state plan, with the longest and most ridiculous title in the world, with lots of ands here. This is child and family eligibility and enrollment and continuity of care. And within this chapter or section, which is pretty big, states identify how we define eligible children and families for both subsidy and financial assistance childcare costs, and then how the eligibility and enrollment policies support access for eligible children and families. Each state has a lot of leeway within federal regulations to decide a lot of this information, so everybody's state plan can look a little different about how their state has chosen to administer this section of the program. Section 3 is another big one about, well, it's a small section, but an important one, about how states address how family co-payments are determined and what policies are in place to waive co-pays or ensure affordable co-payments for families, and how we improve access and affordability for families in economically or socially marginalized communities. So this really goes into the co-pay structure and information like that, and that's section 3. Section 4 is about parental choice, equal access, payment rates, and payment practices. And within this, we address provisions to equal access, including how parents and families have access to the full range of providers, the payment rates, family co-payments, payment practices, and other strategies that help ensure child care providers are available to serve children participating in CCDF. So if you are or know child care providers, this section would be one to really highlight for them to come and look at and provide us public feedback. Section 5 is a big lengthy section that addresses health and safety of childcare settings. So this goes over all the health and safety requirements, all of Oregon's licensing requirements and exemptions to licensing, and everything about comprehensive background checks. So it goes over ratios, group sizes, provider qualifications, and the posting of all the monitoring and inspection reports on our consumer education website. This is a pretty big and weedy section, but it is very important. Section 6 is support for a skilled workforce. And in this, states address the efforts that they are doing to support the childcare workforce and the components and implementation of professional development frameworks, early learning and development guidelines. And section 6.1 has brand new questions about ongoing efforts and future plans to support recruitment and retention, compensation, access to benefits, and mental health supports. And that is actually a good little reminder. You just mentioned that despite the fact that we call this a state plan, and plan sounds like a really aspirational term of what we want to do, it's really a compliance document. So what the state plan really is a snapshot of our policies at a point in time. And in this case, it's every policy and procedure that we will have in effect as of October 1st, 2024, when this plan goes live. So there are a few questions sprinkled throughout that are kind of aspirational and let us talk about our goals for the future. But for the most part, it's really just a look at what is happening in Oregon right now. And as we make changes, especially when we get good public feedback and we have the support to make changes, we make amendments to our plan throughout the plan cycle. So once we've made it, it doesn't mean that you're stuck with that for 3 years and it's just there. But it's important to know this is not an aspirational document as you read through it. Okay, and then moving on, section 7 is about quality improvement activities. In here, states must describe the quality activity needs assessments and identify the types of quality improvement activities they implement using quality set-aside funds. If you've looked at state plans before, you might notice this year that this section seems a lot shorter than it was in the past, because the federal government has realized that we also submit a yearly quality progress report, and we were really answering the same questions both in the state plan and in the quality progress report. And it doesn't make sense to have them identical answers and questions in the same place twice. Our quality progress reports are also available on our website. So if you read through this and you are curious about what Oregon is doing in more detail around quality improvement, you can look at any of the quality progress reports from like the last 5 years are available. Section 8 is our lead agency coordination and partnerships to support service delivery. So this really goes over how we collaborate with other community partners, with other state agencies in order to implement services, how match and maintenance of effort funds are used, how we work with the child care resource and referral agencies, and our efforts for disaster preparedness and response plans. And so it lists a bunch of different entities and agencies throughout the state, and then talks about how our services work together to provide the best for families in Oregon. Section 9, family outreach and consumer education. And states must address consumer education practices, including details about our child care consumer education website and the process for collecting and maintaining a record of parental complaints. So a lot of this section is really about our website, what can be found there, how it meets ADA accessibility and how it is accessible for people with limited English proficiency or people with disabilities. And then there is a big section about our consumer practices like our child care safety portal, how people can register complaints. All of that information is contained within section 9. And the last of the sections is program integrity and accountability. And as this one, we address our internal controls and how they effectively ensure integrity and accountability. So these include reducing fraud, waste and abuse, including program violations and administrative errors, and they apply to all of the CCDF funds. So that is all 10 sections of the draft of the state plan. So in order for people to be able to look at this state plan on their own and have plenty of time to really digest all of the information that we put into these many, many pages, we have posted the draft on our website. And Jordan said she shared the link with you guys in the chat. It's also here. So you can just go to oregon.gov/DELC and you can find it. It's pretty easy. We will have this available for public comment. We put it up on May 1st, and it will be available all the way through June 7th to submit any written formal comments or sign up to provide verbal public comment at our public hearing. This one says to please email jordan.pargetter@delc.oregon.gov, but there is an updated email address. I think Jordan can pop that into the chat for you. That will be even more efficient, just in case Jordan was out of the office. We wanted to make sure that everybody had access that needed to these CCDF related emails. And there's also, it looks like this slide is just a little outdated and we missed it. So we will have 2 more of these information sessions, but they will also be on Zoom links, and all of these Zoom links are available on our webpage. So you guys are at the one today, but if you think anybody else should be attending and you want to share the information, we will have another one on May 14th and May 15th, both from 6 to 7 p.m. We will be recording these, and then the recordings will be available on our YouTube site, but you would actually need to join the Zoom link in order. So no YouTube live stream. The public hearing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add that we haven't received any requests for accommodations, translations, or interpretations thus far, but we did want to share that if you do have a need for any of those accommodations, please email that delc.ccdf@delc.oregon.gov email address so that we can make sure to get that set up, especially for that public hearing. We want to make sure that that's accessible for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. And so just we wanted to show you guys where this was available on our website. So if you click on the link, it'll take you directly to our page. If for any chance you don't have the link when you're looking and you ever just want to find the CCDF section of DELC's website, when you go to our homepage, if you just scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a link that says Child Care Development Fund State Plan. And that has all of our different kind of information. It has the 25-27 plan feedback opportunity, which is what we're talking about right now and where all the Zoom links live, along with the draft copy of the state plan. But there's also a lot of other things on here that are just worth perusing in your own time. A lot of the information that we provide about how we spend CCDF funds and what we do with that funding is available on this web link. And so this is what is on our website right now. And so it shows you all this information that your feedback is valuable for us, explains a little bit about what we just did. And this is where you find the Zoom links to the next 2 sessions, as well as the link to our public hearing. And verbal comments can be provided through this avenue when you attend the public hearing, but comments that you would like to submit in writing, you can use our fillable form, which we highly recommend that you do, or you can choose to email your public comments. And here's the email address we were looking for earlier, delc.ccdf@delc.oregon.gov. All public comments need to be emailed or submitted by 5 p.m. on June 7th, 2024. And it's important to note on our fillable form, you are required to put a name on the form because we do need to have a name in order for them to be considered official public comment. So if anybody chooses to email in their public comment instead of using the form, please just make sure that you include a name so that your public comment can be logged and official, because we want it to be part of the record. And this is just a little look at what happens when you click on the link for our fillable form. And it tells you that the deadline, you just go ahead and go start. So some of these things are required and asks you to choose the role that best describes you. If none of them work, you can choose other and just say what you are. And then again, to enter your name right there. You can choose which sections of the plan you would like to comment on. You can choose 1, you can choose 5, you can choose all 10. It's totally up to you. And then you can enter your public comments here. And I believe it's correct that there is no character limitation. So you can write as much as you want or as little as you want, but this won't limit your answer to any certain length.
Correct. And
Thank
question
you.
3, in case you noticed that it was missing, is just an optional place where you can put your email address if you would like. That's just, again, for our records, just to know who's provided that public comment, but we'll also have that with your name. So it's not a requirement.
It's also really nice if you are wanting to provide your email address, since we do this plan cycle every 3 years, having contact information for the people who are interested on this plan cycle allows us to kind of give you a heads up when we're doing this again 3 years down the road. And so last but not least here, we just have this page with resources about things you can look at as you're looking at our state plan. There's a link to Oregon's current CCDF state plan that is in effect through the end of September of this year. There's a link to the CCDF preprint template, which is our draft, but it's blank. So this is just what the federal government sent out before we filled in all the answers. And then also a link to the CCDF final rule, which is something we're not going to go into detail today, but the Office of Child Care recently reauthorized the Child Care Development Block Grant Act. It's the first time in almost since 2014, so about 10 years, that rule has had a reauthorization. So there were some changes made. And if you're interested in reading more about that, this link will give you some great information about that. And then again, if you have any questions about anything related to CCDF or the state plan, you can always ask them at this delc.ccdf@delc.oregon.gov. And that is the end of our slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we can take questions if there is any, or if anybody would like us to go back or elaborate on any section, just let us know.
Go back to section 3. I kind of missed that one, and as I was capturing notes.
Yeah, let me get back there and then I'll share that again real quick. Okay, so section 3, it's a fairly short section this time, and it's all about childcare affordability. So it talks about our family co-payments and how they're determined, what policies are in place to waive co-pays, and which populations or people that we waive co-pays for, and how the state improves access and affordability for families in economically or socially marginalized communities.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Any other questions? All right, looks like we're hearing none. If you think of any or anything occurs to you, again, please use that email address and just send us any questions that you think of. And please feel free to provide public comment because we love the feedback. It really helps us improve and we can incorporate feedback into our state plan.
Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.